welcome, everyone. This is the Conscious Chicano. Welcome to my Conscious Chat number 10. The title today is called Wars and the Military Industrial Complex. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my chat, Conscious Chat. I'm on YouTube at this moment and Instagram. I see some of you joining me on Instagram. I'm here also on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, go down below, check out the details. I have other channels as well where I'm not censored. I have a Rumble account. If you want to get deeper, and learn some uncensored knowledge, go click on that Rumble account. And also, if you want to join me on the video and talk about this topic, um, come on, join my chat here on YouTube and say invite, and I'll post the link there. Hold on, there's something going on with my camera on let's see here. Something going on with my camera on YouTube. Let me just fix this. Sometimes it goes on and off. um, so, um, so if you want to join me on this video chat, come on my YouTube chat here and say invite, and I'll post the link for you. And also, just follow the rules below on my chat. So keep it civil, keep it respectful, stay on topic, no weirdos allowed, um, and just contribute to the topic. And also, if you want to join me for more uncensored information, join my click on my Twitter account too. And there's a lot of us on there exposing a lot of stuff there. So, and I retweet a lot of stuff here as well. Yeah. So I see that somebody on my Instagram invited me um, to go on video. Actually, I'm doing invitations on YouTube. So come on my YouTube if you want to join me later. How's it going? Casual conversation. Let me see if I can make you the moderator. Let's see here. Because I'm not on YouTube. I'm on another um, I'm on StreamYard at this moment. So I'm trying to figure out how to do two things at once. So hold on, let me just because I don't see the three dots here. So I'm gonna have to click on another window and and go to my YouTube. Let's see here. Hold on a little bit, everyone. Let me just, I'll get back onto the topic as soon as I do some administrative stuff. I got to set a moderator to my chat. So let's see here. If you just join me, I'll just wait for a little bit too, some people to join here. Um, let's see here. Welcome. So the topic today is I'm going to expose the military-industrial complex. Let's see. See if it. Okay, so there she goes. I see the three dots. Add is the. Okay, so I added you casual conversation. Gloria as a moderator. So, and feel free if you see any weirdos on my chat, to restrict them or boot them. um, just make sure that people are keeping it civil, respectful, and contributing to the conversation. um, so, uh, welcome, welcome. Let's get back on topic. So, it's wars in the military industrial complex. Um, so, let's start off. So, what I like to do is go back to colonialism. That's my start right there. A lot of times, back to the invasion of the Americas by the Europeans, and I like to even trace the history of the modern military, especially in colonized nations, especially in the United States, right? And this goes throughout the whole Americas as well. Mexico, so-called Latin America, Canada. Most of these militaries trace all the way back to European imperial colonization. And so when the first settlers came to the Americas, they brought their armies, right? Their they brought they came with guns and cannons and stuff like that. So when they came to the Americas, um, they went at war with the natives, right? Um, and not only war but genocide. And so there's a difference between war and straight out genocide. War is like, okay, you have two combatants, right, that are you know um, you know pretty much fighting each other over territory and resources a lot of times. But there was times where Europeans murdered natives when they weren't armed. They didn't follow any rules at times. They murdered them while they were asleep. They massacred them. They murdered children, elders, women, and very scandalous, right? And a lot of times the natives out here were they had rules for war. And there's a stereotype that the natives were like ambushing everyone and, doing all that kind of stuff. But um, from my readings is that they had to adapt to the way the Europeans were waging war on us, for survival, because the Europeans were not playing fair rules, right, in their type of warfare. So that came later on. The the approach to war was changed with the natives. Prior to that, the natives had certain rules, certain type of codes of honor, before warriors went at war with each other, right? For example, the Mexicas, like they had, they had to be an official declaration in some sense, and then they had to be certain rules at war, right? When the Europeans came, they did have certain procedures, but they violated them, and they went and started massacring people left and right. At times, they were losing wars, but so they wanted to, use different tactics to conquer people, to commit genocide, to take over their lands, right? So, as they invaded the Americas, they they were murdering people with their guns and doing different tactics here and there. Um, and so as they gained their advantage, as they were going from east to west, say the United States, um, they started recruiting people in their armies, especially native people. They started recruiting African slaves, right? to fight for them. They wanted to use them, and they even gave them at times deals like, oh, okay, if you fight for us, you know, we'll make a deal with you. You get some freedom, right, or here and there, right? And a lot of times it was deception, though. You know, they would join their militaries and they wouldn't get what was promised. Just like the modern military right now, you see a lot of men of color who join the military and they think they're going to get all this and that and everything, and they end up homeless, right? You know, or they're not, when they leave the military, they're not as successful as they thought they were going to be. And then they realize, hey, you could do this without the military, right? You could pay for your college, you could do different things. I remember they were trying to recruit me to join the military, and at that time I wasn't well aware of the military at that time, just straight out of high school, you know. And they were trying to recruit me, so they said, oh, we'll pay for your college, right, you know. and then um and then I found out, wait a minute, I as a person of color, you know, coming from a low income background, as most of us, right? Financial aid actually, helped us, right? Scholarships, grants, and stuff like that. And so I saw that. I was like, wait a minute, I don't need the military to go to college. So, and I told the recruiter straight out, I said, hey, you know what? I don't need to go to the military to get, to go to college, And he's like, yeah, you're right. He laughed because he knew he was being deceptive, right? And I called him out on it, right? Right on the phone. I told him straight out. I go, you know what? I don't need to join the military to go to college, and because I that's what my goal was, to go to college, right? And so it's tactics like that. They would try to recruit, you know, natives, African, even Mexicans. Even in the past, they used Mexicans to go at war with other nations, right? The military, the way the Europeans colonized the Americas, they used divide and conquer. So sometimes they would see natives going at war with each other, right? Or they had beef, right? And so the European wanted to conquer all of them and take all their lands, right? So they would see the one who was more powerful, had more of an advantage, right? They would side with that person, right? And I mean, that nation. And then they would conquer the weaker nation, right? And then once they conquered them, they took their land, their resources, and subdued them, committed genocide, enslaved them. And then the natives that helped the Europeans, sometimes the Europeans turned on them, and then they got their resources. So it's a lot of divide and conquer tactics, military tactics. They've been using this for a long time throughout the Americas and all the way to this very day. Ever since they invaded the Americas, all the way to this very day, you know. So from colonization, they built their armies, right? And these white supremacists recruited brown, black, so-called red, natives are actually brown, so I'll stick to that. But they recruited us, and they used us to fight their white, their fight for their imperialism, fight for their colonization, for their white supremacy. So you got to understand that context, and it's been happening to this very day. They still go out and try to recruit us, right, to fight their wars, right, invade other countries for their resources, all for greed, you know. So I wanted to talk about this topic because right now it's a heated topic right now. I just saw Trump right now coming out of, you know, saying something that, oh, Biden is leading us to a major war, right? And if you know, and that he Trump says I wouldn't have done this. I would actually had have them basically resolve their issues, and and he's all about business, and that might be true. No major wars occurred with Trump, right? Although he did support some of the drone attacks there, and escalated them out there in the Middle East, but there wasn't major wars with Trump. And I'm not promoting Trump or Biden because they're both corrupt, right? And the military is going to exist with or without them. So and this is what I call the military industrial complex, right? It's kind of like an entity on its own in some sense, right? Although presidents do have some influence, but in my point of view, a lot of us know about the deep state, right? I shouldn't even talk about that, right? Because you might get censored on these platforms. But there's a government behind the scenes, that it's involves the globalists, right? And the United States is part of that as well. And and they're the ones that the United States as well as the globalists, in a sense, dictate like a lot. They orchestrate a lot of these wars. If they see that your country has all these resources where they can profit and get wealthy off of it, they target you. If you don't comply with their globalist agenda, they go after you, right? And this is what they've been doing, um, in the Middle East. They've been doing that a lot there. Right now, they're targeting Russia right now, you know, and Russia is not innocent either. I was listening to a anarchist critique of communism, and how he was saying that the Russian Bolsheviks and all that, and the USSR were claiming that they were all about the working class, but they were actually not for the working class, and they were oppressing people there. So it was an interesting critique there. So a lot of anarchists critique even socialism and communism. As you guys know, I'm a Chicano anarchist, right? But we also critique even any kind of statism, whether it's capitalist, socialist, or communist, whatever government you have. Yeah, I even critique native governments at times, because at times they're elitists as well and oppress people under them, right? So I don't. I see. I'm as an indigenous brown person, you know, a lot of us just want to critique the Europeans and their colonization, but we have to be also critical of our own, um, behaviors in some sense, or our own governments as well. So I even critique even the Mexican government as well. uh, so yeah, so to understand this military industrial complex, you got to go back to the invasion of the Americas, you know, and a good book, you know, I keep talking about it, is called American Holocaust by David E. Stannard. It goes into a lot of that right there, and it talks about how the Europeans invaded, right, with their militaries, right, and they came up and they saw a way to divide and conquer, so they recruited our people to strengthen their military, to make it more powerful. And this is where you get the Buffalo Soldiers, right? There's some controversies with the Buffalo Soldiers killing some natives, right? Some natives joined the military, right, and started killing Mexicans, right? And some Mexicans joined the military and were being used to kill certain native nations. So the European loves to use other people and divide them and conquer them. And that's what he does. He's good at that. And this is how he became very powerful. He's very deceptive. and he's a con artist in some sense. He tells you, oh, we're gonna do this for you if you help us here. If you help us conquer the world, you know, we're gonna give you some benefits, right? So this is what he does. He deceives. He's a con artist, and this is how he's conquered the whole world. Um, for example, when the Spaniards came, people think the Spaniards conquered all the natives in Mexico by themselves, and they didn't. Matter of fact, they had the help of other native nations in order to, say, for example, conquer the Aztecs, the Mexicas. They used the Tlaxcalans to conquer the Aztecs and Mexicas. Prior to that, they were getting their butt kicked. So the Tlaxcalans had beef with the Aztecs, right? And so they used the Tlaxcalans to conquer the Aztecs, the Mexicas. That's just one example, but there's many other examples, even in the United States, where the Europeans did that, and they're good at that. They're very good at that. So it's important to understand that. And then we got this whole thing in modern times, how they try to recruit us for their military-industrial complex. There's actually a good documentary. There's a bunch of them that talks about the military-industrial complex. I think there's one called "Why We Fight," and it goes all the way back. Like, I think I forgot which president, but basically, they claim it's all about defense, right? Defense of a nation, and they cloak. This is how they fool the military men to join. Oh, you're fighting for your nation, right? You're defending your nation, right? But yet, it's not defending your nation. It's actually invading people, conquering them, taking their resources and land, committing genocide, enslaving them. That's what they do. They're upholding and maintaining white supremacy ever since colonization. I see some of these brown and black guys joining the military, and they come out all brainwashed. They think just like a white man. I know this because I have, sometimes I come across people who join the military, and very whitewashed, very brainwashed, and it's very interesting. But I'll say this: there's some Chicanos that join the military, and they realize what they've done, right? How they supported imperialism. They I came across even a ex black military man, and he knew what he found out. He was involved in Iraq, the Iraqi war, and he found out what they were actually. They told all the military men a lie, right? They told them, they deceived them, and he realized that, oh, ever since then he's like, okay, I know about this military now. It's corrupt, and he was telling me that it's all about money. It's a lot of these corporations, these you know like Halliburton and all these other companies that are just making profit off of war, you know. And that's what the military industrial complex is all about. It's trying to make profit. It's ransacking the goods, right? The resources, and making money off of war. War it makes people rich, especially certain companies out here, contractors, you know. And this even goes back all the way to like even secret societies where there's certain individuals, who became rich off of wars, right? They would purposely orchestrate wars, and they would um, develop military arms, and they would sell them to the rival nations, and they would make money off of that. This is how they got rich, you know. And this war is profit. That's what it is, you know. So this is what they this is why they keep going on, and that's why there's so much corruption, you know. And they tell everyone that joins the military, oh, this is about your nation, this is about defense, right? You know, and then they label people oh, I can't say certain words because of the algorithms. um but you're labeled as an enemy, right? People, certain people who are labeled as enemies, uh, that's the biggest hysteria, you know, the big fear. Even Malcolm X talked about it. Be careful with the media in some sense, where they tell you who your enemy is, you know, and it's not really your enemy. The ones that are your enemies are the ones who are perpetrating the evils in society, you know, telling you that, oh, you shouldn't like these certain people, right? You shouldn't like Middle Easterns. That's what I'm trying to get to. Oh, they're bad people, right? And they're the enemy. You shouldn't like Russians. They're the enemy, right? You shouldn't like people in South America, right? They're the enemy, right? They tell you who your enemy is, right? When the one who's actually going down and invading, causing havoc, and stealing land and resources is in your own your it's in your own nation, right? I say the brown natives out here, you know, like we're living in the belly of the beast, right? That's what it is. United States is a very powerful nation with one of the most powerful militaries around, and they built their technology. The Westerners are good at, you know, creating murder machines, right? They're good at that. This weaponry, they saw power in that, right? They say, was it might is right in some sense. You know, we think we're a civilized nation where, oh, it's, we don't need brutes anymore. We don't need, all we need is intellectuals, right? We do need intellectuals, right? To critique and to expose, you know, the corruption out here. But might, some, it wins a lot of times, you know. You can have the most smartest people around, but if you have a military out there just, you know, out there running everybody over and taking their land and resources, it's all, you know, it's might is right, it wins, right? And this is what they know, you know. And these military strategists, these white supremacists, they know about war, they study it, they read stuff like The Art of War. You know, they're smart intellects, you know, they know what they're doing, you know. But and it's all about profits and money, right? Greed. That's what it is. It's greed. Colonization. That's what it was all about. The Spaniards came to these lands because they were greedy. They wanted more gold, right? That it's that mindset there, you know. They're never happy. They're always, oh, they have all this wealth, right? But they're never happy. They want more. They want more, right? And this is why they go and invade other lands. They came to the Americas, they invaded here, they went to Africa, they invaded there with their militaries, and over here with their militaries, they invaded the islands. You know, some of these islanders, you know, were also you know, conquered by their militaries. And right now, we're at the brink of war right now, you know. People don't take this seriously, and this is very serious right now. We're at the brink of World War III, and because we got this liberal media out here brainwashing people to think that, oh, the bad guys are the Russians, right? Although I say Russians do have an agenda with China, and I don't agree with that either, but the mainstream media is making it seem like the Russians are the bad guys, and when in fact it's the United States that's provoking a possible World War III. And this is a dangerous situation because it could lead to nuclear war and it could lead to the end of all of humanity. And people are not taking this seriously. They're distracted a bunch with a bunch of nonsense, right? Um, but yeah, we need people to really think about what's going on in this country. And Biden, he's a warmonger, big time. He has a bad track history, you know, and he's definitely jumping on board with the globalists, and they just want to, you know, they want to invade Russia and get rid of them, right? And they're supporting a Ukrainian country who's known to have neo-Nazism in their military ranks, right? And and so this is what's going on. They're trying to cause another World War III, and this is serious stuff right here. There's a possibility that it could lead to nuclear war, and good luck with all that. You know, it's going to endanger the globe, everybody, and everything. And a lot of this is led by white supremacists. All those Europeans, United Nations, all these globalists here, NATO, United States, all these people in power in charge of these militaries out here, they're the ones trying to cause this World War III, you know? And that's what they're doing. They're good at that. And they've been doing that throughout history. They've been doing that, you know? And they're deceptive. They use their media to deceive you, you know? They try to recruit our people to join their military, you know, with this false patriotism. Um, as you guys know, I've been kind of like anti-war for a long time. Although I do believe in self-defense, right? Everyone has a right to self-defense, but I don't support a white supremacist military-industrial complex. And just by reading the history of the Americas and how it all started, you know, how they invaded with their militaries, and then they used divide and conquer tactics, and then they started recruiting us to support their military industrial complex. And then after they conquered the natives, they started going after everybody else throughout the globe. I mean, they also went to Africa too, but then they started going after the islanders as well. And they tried even conquering the Asians as well. This is what that whole Vietnam War was all about right there. The whole Korean War right there. Their war against Japan, right? Um, you know, they tried even taking over China. Although I don't defend China, they're kind of corrupt as well too. I don't agree with their government. So you guys know I don't agree with any government, right? Their globalist agenda at this point. But you gotta just know that history, you know. And actually Malcolm X was good at analyzing and studying this right here, studying the European and how he has colonized the world, especially with his militaries. And that's what it is. And it's like for example, the natives here in Mexico, like you know, they were actually beating the Spaniards a lot of times. They were pretty tough, right? Even the Spaniards complain and say, "Oh, we can't even take them down. We need like several guys to take down some of their warriors," right? So what gave the Spaniards the advantage though is, yeah, some of their weaponry, right? Some of those swords there, their guns, the cannons. But if it wasn't for their weaponry, they would have been defeated, right? Because the Mexica Aztecs were beating them down. They were kicking their butt, you know. But you know, like a lot of times, it's like it doesn't take a tough guy to have a gun, right? And shoots, you know, that I mean, to kill somebody. That's why you got these little cowards out here pulling guns on people, and most of them don't even know how to kick butt, you know. So they're over there pulling guns on people, and the white man knew, the European knew how to have that advantage over people, you know, and this is how he went and conquered the nations. And what's interesting is it's a mindset, you know, it's a greedy mindset because the Chinese had gunpowder, right? They had cannons and stuff like that. And they weren't out there conquering the whole world, right? But the Europeans, as soon as they got their hands on that gunpowder and found out how to make guns and how to kill people, oh, they used that to their advantage, and they had this greedy mindset that we need to conquer the world, right? And take all the resources and wealth and land and women. That's what their mindset was all about. Make slaves, and yeah, and that's why, you know, it exists to this very day in the modern day military. You know, that's why they're creating all these weapons of mass destruction out here to have advantage over everyone else, right? And other nations got smart and they said, okay, we're going to defend ourselves too. And that's why some nations have nukes. And I'm not pro nuke, right? It's bad for the environment. But sometimes, you know, when you have somebody that's threatening you with nukes, you gotta defend yourself, right? And so this is why other nations have nukes out there, you know, and that's why we're at the brink of World War III. You know, Russia has nukes. The United States does. You know, all these powerful nations have nukes. But guess what? If there happens to be a nuclear war, then shoot, everyone's in danger, right? So, a lot of times the whole globe is being dominated by gangs out here. People think, oh, these little gangsters on the streets, right? No, there's bigger gangs out here, and they have militaries, right? And this is what's happening throughout the world. It's a lot of gang banging, you know, and this military industrial complex is very corrupt. You know, even the whole war machine, how they're creating all this weaponry, and they cause chaos. They go and give military arms to corrupt, crooked people out here. This is why even some of the in Latin America, I think there's a documentary called something about U.S. foreign policy. I forgot the exact name, but it's a whole documentary about Latin America, how the United States gives military arms to people in South America, in Latin America, and they make deals with them. And basically, if you try to overthrow certain governments, and you know, and it's kind of like follow the plans of instilling a puppet government, and they'll make deals with these people and give them military arms, and this is what they do, you know. And it's crooked out here, man. It's really crooked. And like I said, might is right in some sense. It wins, you know. You could have the most moral intellectuals out there, but you know, when they go out and start, you know, the bad guys come out and start slaughtering people, they end up taking over and winning. And that's part of the problem out here. That's why there's so much chaos and warmongering out here, you know. But yeah, that's the problem with a lot of these governments and in the militaries out here. And the United States is led by white supremacist agendas, straight out. Anyways, if anyone has some questions, feel free to go on my YouTube and send me some questions. Or if you're on Instagram, I see some people watching. Leave some questions, and I'll be willing to answer them. You know. So we got these some of these Chicanos who join the military, right? And they try to influence other Chicanos to join the military, right? To me, that's just sad because there's a possibility that these Chicanos will die in the front lines, right? A lot of times they're in the front lines and they're dying for this nation. All for what? Wealth, greed, white supremacy, imperialism, all that stuff. That's why I tell these little Chicanitos out here, like, don't join the military, man. Don't join it. They target a lot of our poor communities because they're desperate, right? They want to get out of their situation, so they're deceived that, oh, you could get out of poverty by joining the military, right? And they deceive them, right? So they go and join the military, and then they're in the front lines, and guess what? They get shot, right? They get killed. They come back paralyzed, amputated. And then they leave the military, and it's like, oh, they're all messed up, right? Paralyzed, they're amputated, they have PTSD, they're hooked on drugs, they become homeless. I come across a lot of homeless people out here in Los Angeles. A lot of them are ex veterans, and it's sad what's going on. Even Mexicans who are immigrants, they joined the military, and the military gave them a promise that, oh, you'll become a citizen if you fight for us, right? Some of them end up dead, right? Fighting in the front lines, or they end up coming back to the United States. Oh no, we're going to deport you now. so, so it's crooked. I'm telling you, they tell you what you want to hear just to use you, and they use you for their power and might. They use your body, right? You're just a commodity to them. All for what? So they can get rich and powerful. That's what it's all about right there. But the only thing I think is about kind of positive about the military, though, I like about it, is that they teach you self defense, discipline. A lot of these guys, they're working out. They show them, how to defend themselves. That's good, but and sometimes you can learn a technical trade in the military. But other than that, like, even if you're learning a technical trade, your trade is supporting their white supremacist imperialism, their war, their takeover of other nations, right? They actually, one time, they during the whole Vietnam War, they tried recruiting Muhammad Ali, and Muhammad, it was like a forced draft back then. And if you didn't join the military, you go to a prison, right? So Muhammad Ali says, "Heck no! Why should I go to invade like Vietnam? Why should I go down there when the yellow people haven't done nothing to me? The one who has done something to my people has been the white man." So I was like, "Oh man!" So he was smart about that. So he chose not to join the military. This white man tries to recruit you to fight for him, when in fact this white man has been over here colonizing your people throughout history and conquering you and stealing your wealth and resources. So that was a very interesting take on his opposition of the military industrial complex. Um, Also, there's some interesting group called the Iraqi Veterans Against War. And there's some interesting interviews by them, and they came out, and now they're like Veterans for Peace or something. There's an organization like that, and they're against a lot of this imperialism and warmongering out here. And like I said, sometimes Chicanos even change after they join the military. They see the deception, they see what they were involved in, and then they turn against it and say, you know what, that's corrupt. They start exposing the warmongering nation here, and the Iraq Veterans for Peace, they're pretty good too as well. They there's one interview on YouTube. I don't know if it's still on here, but he's basically saying the problem is not, you know, foreign nations. The problem is us. We're the ones out there causing chaos and wreaking havoc and labeling people as the enemy when they're not, over there bullying people and taking over their land and resources and all that. We're part of that problem. That's what he said. I would say no, not us, right? It's a lot of times the European colonizers, but it's also, yeah, some of the brown and black out here that support that military industrial complex, So yeah, we got issues like that, So I'm glad there's people who, there's even anti-war, I think it's antiwar.com or something like that. They're pretty good. And they have like booklets and everything exposing imperialism, the whole warmongering and everything. I know Noam Chomsky actually has a good book too. It's what's it called? I forgot the exact title, but it's basically showing a jet flying in the cover, and it says the colonialism continues in some sense, and he traces it all the way back to colonialism and the modern military right now. I forgot the exact title, but just look up Noam Chomsky in his books, and he critiques even the military-industrial complex as well. But yeah, and the way I am is like, a lot of times we got these liberals, okay, let's talk about the Republicans and Democrats. Oh man, they're corrupt. Both parties are corrupt, and both parties are warmongers. And so, and sometimes the Democrats are worse at warmongering than some of the Republicans. We commonly think that the Republicans are the only warmongers, right? But a lot of these Democrat presidents are just as bad or even worse at times, And so, but I point out both parties, how they're involved in all this stuff too. I mean, you got like Bush, all the Bush family invading Iraq. Then you have Obama invading the Middle East, the Clinton support of that, Right now we're at the brink of World War III with Biden, big time warmonger. And so we see both parties involved in this warmongering and imperialism. And even people, think of Republicans like Abraham Lincoln back in the day. He was a warmonger too. He led one of the biggest lynchings of Native Americans. That's war right there, right? Colonization, imperialism is war. It's white supremacy at war with people around the world, right? And it continues ever since colonialism. It went into Africa, it went to the Americas, it went to the islands, some Asian nations, right? They tried conquering the whole world, right? This is how they got powerful. They did conquer most of it. Committed genocide, took people's land, used their weaponry, used divide and conquer tactics, and enslaved the masses. But yeah, this is what's happening, and it continues to this very day. I call it the beast, the beast system right now. So yeah, definitely. So if you just join me, if you're on I see some people on Instagram, some are on YouTube. So if you have some questions, write a question. I'll be willing to answer it. So one of the rationales is like, okay, we need a military, right, to defend our nation, you know. But this is a lie. This is a lie because nations out here are not trying to take over the United States. It's the United States is trying to take over everybody else, right? Out of greed, after people's resources, you know. That's what they're doing out here. You know, all this false patriotism, you know, it's all built on from white supremacy. You read about the building of this nation. Read American Holocaust by David E. Stannard. It just talks about the origins of this nation and its corruption, colonialism, white supremacy, and how they use their military might to conquer people throughout the world. They're still doing it to this very day. And this is what's gonna this is what's happening. We're at the brink of World War III. Anyways, I just wanted to explore this whole topic. You know, a lot of times people point at the Republicans or the Democrats. No, they're both corrupt. They're both imperialists. You know, they're all after people's countries and resources and lands and all that stuff. I would talk about a certain nation, but I can't talk about it here on YouTube. But it has to do with the Middle East, and um, the topic, maybe I'll just say the country, but Israel is also involved in this kind of stuff too. But I'm not gonna talk much on that. But that nation has wants to take over the whole Middle East as well. So there's even problems with that too. Um, and some of these Arabic countries too are not innocent either. Some of them are involved in, the globalist agenda as well. So they're not innocent either. So there's a lot of things going on in terms of globalization, you know, um, and what's happening out here. And a lot of times, what they do is they use the whole problem reaction solution. So let's go back to even 9/11. That's a good topic actually to talk about. Um, so they basically um, initiate a problem. A lot of times we think, a lot of us truthers out here, we question the narrative of 9/11. And maybe I shouldn't even go too much into this whole topic because I think they also ban you on this topic as well. But basically, they made us think that it was foreigners, and many question that story, and said they basically say it's an inside job, right? And so they used the media and they showed you the twin towers falling, and you reacted in fear, and and we had this whole we were in fear of Arabs, right? And we stereotyped them, right, as the enemy. And this caused a reaction, all this false patriotism, you know, and this is like they started accusing certain countries in the Middle East of having um, weaponry. I think it's even nuclear weaponry, when they didn't, like Iraq. They were accusing Iraq of having nuclear weaponry, and they didn't even have it. And they made up all these false stories, and supposedly all these inspectors and this and that. It was found out that it was a big fat lie, and they went and invaded Iraq. Right? I'm not saying Saddam Hussein was innocent, right? But they used the deception of the media and the lies to create fear in people and to get everybody on board in supporting the war against Iraq. And they've been doing this throughout history. They use their media. Back in the day, it was like they would publish stuff, right? All these stories about natives being, savages and unruly and, going after white people and this and that. And they would create all this hysteria to get people to go at war with the natives, to hunt them down, to scalp them and sell their scalps, and all this crazy propaganda. And they're good at that. And they do it now with their television, their television, and even some of their radio stations, right? Their radio stations, some of their books too. Just be aware of that. They know how to deceive the masses with false information, misinformation, right? They tell you who the enemy is, right? When the enemy is sitting amongst you. And yeah, that's what they've been doing. It's propaganda. Um, and they're good at that. So even Noam Chomsky has a good documentary called Manufacturing Consent. Go check that out. And basically, the media is a tool of the government, right? And whatever the government says, they brainwash you, they indoctrinate you with certain information. They tell you to support a war, right? Right now, oh, you'll be surprised. A lot of these Democrats, they're all like, oh, we got to get rid of Russia. They're over here, sending all this taxpayer money to support the Ukrainians to go at war with Russia. They're sending all these tanks and all this military might over there, and they want to cause World War III now. They're serious about this. They're not backing down, and so like that, like I said, people don't take this seriously, and we got these guys in power misrepresenting us, right? I even question that anybody even represents us, right? I was listening to this anarchist yesterday. He goes, "No, I don't believe anybody should represent me." It's like, why should I have somebody else deciding and choosing for me, right? I should be the one deciding and choosing. So this whole false conception of representation in politics is a bunch of nonsense. But yeah, we got these guys in power, in charge of the military, trying to wreak havoc on the earth, on the whole earth. What nuclear war does, man. It wipes out a lot of people. It makes the environment toxic. It destroys the whole ecosystem. It's not all of it, but probably most. I mean, when a nuclear missile is released, it destroys pretty much all of that environment there. And so, we got these maniacs in charge. These maniacs fighting over resources, land, and power. We should have put a stop to them when they colonized the Americas. And because we didn't put a stop to them, now they're wreaking havoc throughout the whole world now. This is what happens. This is what happens. But anyways, so I got a question by Casual Conversation. How's it going? Let's see. The question is, do you think that World War III is coming? How do we survive it? Ooh, wow. Yeah, that's a good one. So we're not too certain if World War III is going to occur, but the way things are turning out, it doesn't look good. Doesn't look good because this Biden administration, they're just arming Ukraine. They're sending all that. Sending all our taxpayer money to support these guys. Yet we have homelessness out here all throughout the United States. Los Angeles, the homelessness has increased like crazy. They're wasting all this money on the Ukrainians, and we're not really putting this to building infrastructure out here. That's part of the problem too. And we got these guys like these fake progressives out here who are supposed to be anti-war supporting this whole military invasion of Russia. Bernie Sanders and AOC and these what is this these three ladies and this and that, like these fake progressives, right, are just warmongers. And I know there's a pretty good lady, Tulsi Gabbard. She's pretty good. She was involved in the military, and that's what I'm saying. Some military people become conscious, and they see the corruption in the military, right? Tulsi Gabbard has been on this exposing the imperialisms and all that, and the warmongering. She has some good insight. She exposed a lot of these fake progressives too in their warmongering. So interesting take on that. But do I think that World War III is coming? I see it as a possibility. I'm not too certain. Not too certain. But the momentum is looking like it might occur. You know. And how do we survive it? Oh wow, that's a tough one right there. I was thinking of the Japanese. They survived nuclear, an atomic bomb, right? So maybe we can probably learn from the Japanese. A lot of the rich elites right now have their bunkers. A lot of us poor folks out here, working class, we can't even afford any of that stuff, right? You know, but a lot of these rich elites have their underground bunkers. So if stuff like that occurs, they're going to be in their own little bunkers. They even have like little underground cities full of food supplies and everything. They probably could live there for a long time. So I think probably the majority of the masses might end up like either dying of nuclear radiation or something like that. But I know somebody said in like the Eastern Europe, they would tell people to take a lot of iodine, not a lot, but I mean, I have to be careful with recommendations, but take iodine, make that constant in your diet, right? A lot of us are deficient in iodine. So they say iodine helps against radiation. So definitely look into iodine. How do we survive it? So the Japanese, I like to even think of the Japanese and how they survived. So a lot of times the Japanese, you would think they would get higher cancer rates because of the nuclear disaster that occurred there, right? They even had like some leaks of nuclear, uh, you know, radiation, and also been bombed by the atomic bomb, right? And they have one of the lowest rates of cancer in the world, and the secret is what they eat. And I know they eat a lot of like kind of like seafood, and I think is the key is they get iodine in their system. Um, they eat what is it? I think it's like it might be like sea moss and different things like that. Um, But that's interesting that they have one of the lowest cancer rates around, and yet they've been living in environments that are full of nuclear radiation. So definitely, possibly, diets can help you survive in a radioactive environment. Also, I guess, if you have the resources, creating your own underground bunkers, um, or even getting away from the cities. So I know in times of nuclear war, cities are probably the major targets, right? Like major, like urban areas, major like areas. So I would say go out to the country or somewhere, maybe the mountains, um, and maybe you'll be probably in a safer place there. um, so that's what I was thinking. It's like those are possible ways to try to survive. And another question by casual conversation is, if Biden gets removed, how do you think it will play out with Kamala? Oh, okay. Um, hmm, interesting. Yeah, so Kamala, she's corrupt too. I know Tulsi Gabbard exposed her, and this is why she lost in the Democratic primaries. So a lot of times the Obama, the black Democrats, um, they want a, or even the feminists, they want a black woman as president, right? And so, but here's a problem with that. It's like Obama as a black man, was a warmonger. So being black doesn't mean that you're gonna be a peacemaker, right? Also, being a woman doesn't guarantee that you're gonna be a peacemaker. For example, look at um, Hillary Clinton, one of the biggest warmongers around. You had women like, I think was it Margaret Thatcher or something? They were supporting South African apartheid and white supremacy, and was also a warmonger. They even say the Queen of England was a warmonger as well, especially when they invaded um, certain nations out here. So being black and being a woman doesn't guarantee that you're going to be a peacemaker. And I think Kamala Harris is just as corrupt as anybody else. I think it doesn't matter who's in office. There's always puppets, right? And it's like, as long as you have this military industrial complex, this corrupt Congress, this corrupt government, there's always going to be wars, imperialism. There's going to be greedy men in charge, that want more and more, and they're never satisfied. So, yeah, definitely good question. Um, Another question is CMOS effective overall? Um, CMOS is it's interesting. CMOS is very, yeah, it's a lot of health benefits to it and everything. Very much a lot of health benefits. CMOS. Um, there's a lot of good nutrients in CMOS, so it's pretty good. I'm actually into what's called fucoidin. Fucoidin's pretty good. It's like anti-cancer, anti a lot of things. So I'm into what's called fucoidin, and it's found in certain I think it's certain algae out there. I forgot the exact where it's found in certain sea I think plants. And I forgot exactly which one, but look into that fucoidan as well. Sea moss, fucoidan, those are pretty good anti-cancer. So um, you're in a radioactive environment. Definitely it's good to have that in your system beforehand. Don't take it at the last minute. A lot of people think, oh, I'm gonna take some iodine supplements, right? I'm gonna take some iodine supplements, and it's gonna save me. Um, you know, um, you can't take it at the last minute. You gotta get it in your system as soon as possible. Anyways, actually, I'm gonna hold on. Yeah, so yeah, so another question on YouTube is, have you heard of chaga for anti-cancer? No, I haven't actually. Wow. Send me a link uh, on my Instagram. Let me know about that. I haven't really heard of that. Um, there's some interesting takes on this whole thing. A lot of anti-cancer stuff, but definitely. Um, so yeah, it's important. I think diet is a good way to prevent. You know, prevent is cancer that's caused by radiation. A lot of people, I see, even when I talk about this whole cancer stuff, I gotta be careful because you get banned here too on YouTube. Uh, Cancer is another topic. So, but there's ways to prevent cancer, and you know, get living a healthy lifestyle, getting your nutrients in. So if you're eating terrible and you're taking these herbs or whatever, or seafoods or whatever, um, but you're still eating terrible, that's not a good thing. So the key is to have an overall good health. Start eating better, organic, non-GMO, decrease the sugars, the vegetable oils, the carbs, um, not too many grains, and get those nutrients in your system, essential nutrients, and also taking stuff like sea moss, some herbs. You gotta know what you're doing with certain herbs too, and even the fucoidan, stuff like that. Get your iodine as well. Iodine does so much for the thyroid, good stuff. But definitely, um, yeah. So that's the best way to prevent, cancer caused by radiation. And what's interesting is, I feel like talking about this topic, but they, yeah, I just won't go there, because they'll censor you right away. They'll censor you. But just think of what they do when they just think of chemotherapy. There are negative side effects to it. That's all. I'm just. That's it. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. But definitely having a good diet, getting those supplements in, and you know can help prevent you from being a victim of nuclear radiation. Yeah, yeah. Well, see, a lot of times when it comes to herbs and vitamins and minerals, a lot of times people like they think they can eat unhealthy and still take these and they'll be good to go, right? But this whole thing, you got to also start eating better so you can absorb some of these vitamins and minerals. Herbs, you got to be careful what you're doing with. Sometimes if you do too much of it, or you take the wrong type of herb, it has some kind of negative side effects. But you gotta have to, you have to, you know, really study and know about what you're doing with certain herbs. And I'm not saying all herbs are bad, but when they're misused or taken too much or taken at the wrong time or something, uh, there can be some negative side effects. But I'm into herbs and spices as well, and I take some too as well. But yeah, just be educated on that whole issue. And yeah, this whole war industrial complex topic is going into even the whole health subject. Yeah, and yeah, and it's good to know how to survive nuclear radiation, and you know, um, yeah, I'm sure there's probably even more information on that topic, but yeah, definitely get that iodine in your system. It does so much for you. Um, so casual conversation said, oh, well, see, the whole thing. Yeah, I don't even want to go into that topic, but if you go to my Rumble account and look through there, and there's a whole thing about the whole um, cancer industry. And I'll just leave it as that. I'm not going to go into details about that because they ban people out here big time. That's another topic that you cannot talk about. They'll ban you. They'll censor you. But just go to my Rumble account and search through there. Matter of fact, I might send you a link on Instagram. So I'll send you a link and check out that whole documentary. It's very interesting, but I won't go too much in that. There's certain topics cannot touch on YouTube because I had bad experiences, like getting strikes and getting censored, all kinds of funny things happening to my YouTube live. I was getting buffered and all that. So I just kind of keep it commercialized and talk about, don't get too deep on certain subjects here. But I go deeper on Rumble, so I'll be sending you that whole link on it. But yeah, there's so many good documentaries exposing the military industrial complex and the wars out here. Get your hand on that book, American Holocaust by David E. Stannard. Also, Why We Fight. Go check out that documentary. Very insightful. Um, the U.S. Is the foreign policy. Let me. There's a good documentary. What I've learned about U.S. foreign policy. That's a good one. That one's really good. It exposes a lot of the corruption the United States does in Latin America. And a lot of people are not even aware of all that stuff. And how they even established what's called the School of the Americas, where they train militias. The United States train militias here and send them out to the Latin America to topple governments and set up their puppets. And this is what they do. You know, they uh, they just supply even a lot of corrupt people out here. Throughout Latin America and all that. So there's a lot of corruption. A lot of it. And what's crazy is that sometimes we have Chicanos and Chicanas, you know, that especially Chicanas who have boyfriends who are in the military. oh, they love military men, right? And they get all indoctrinated by this stuff, you know. Sometimes I see them in the health freedom movement, right? They're all, oh yeah, let's let's stop the mandates and this and that. But then they're all pro support of their military industrial complex and imperialism, because their boyfriend is a military man. I've seen this kind of stuff. And it's like, you got to think critically, think critically about all this stuff. Dig into the history of it. Yeah. There's also, man, even this whole thing about Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. Yeah, yeah. I don't know if I should even talk about this here, but Julian Assange, he with his WikiLeaks exposed what happened in the Iraq War, and they uploaded videos of United States men in helicopters out there just massacring civilians, and unarmed civilians, and that violates even war law or something like that. Like you cannot target civilians, right? And so they were massacring civilians and everything. That sparked the whole controversy with WikiLeaks and Julian Assange. That's why the United States is after him, right? Um, I think they already have him in jail somewhere. I haven't kept up with what's going on with him, but yeah, his whenever people come out and expose them, they expose the corruption, all that they try to censor and everything. But it's just sad, with all this corruption that's going on out here. But yeah, there's a lot of different documentaries out here exposing even the whole Iraq war, how they lied to us. I think there's one called Dirty Wars or something like that. Usually KPFK is really good. It's a radio station, 90.7 FM, and sometimes they have some good documentaries that they announce there. There used to be a good radio show called the Anti-War radio station. They used to expose a lot of stuff. I'm not too sure if they're still there anymore, but so they have some good insight. Although it's a liberal, you know, um, a lot of liberal views on that radio station, but sometimes they have some good information that even critiques some of the Democrats there. Sometimes there's a guy named Gary Knoll. He has a progressive radio network. He's very good. He critiques everybody, and all their corruption. But yeah, the whole, there's a lot of documentaries exposing this stuff, and I think a lot of Chicanos and Chicanos out here need to be well informed about this whole issue. A lot of us just don't even care, or not even interested to learn about this stuff. So we need to learn about the corrupt history of the military and its colonialism, and how all the way to this very day it's still corrupt and still doing the same thing. What they did to the natives here, they also did to the Africans. They also did to the Arab. They're doing it to the Arab people, and they're trying to do it to the Russians now. And so that this is what they do, and you got to trace their history, right, and know what they're all about, and don't support them. Tell brown people don't join the military. Educate them about this, and definitely. Anyways, I think I'm gonna get going. It was good talking to you, everyone here. Thank you, Casual Conversation, for moderating and asking good questions. Um, and also for those who are going to watch this after this goes up on YouTube, um, if you want to get a hold of me, add me on Instagram, send me a message. If you want some resources, documentary links on this, if you want to get a hold of me and interview me, or if you want to get interviewed by me on my videos, my platform too, and you can contact me on my Instagram. Also, join me on Twitter, where we share lots of good information, retweeting stuff, exposing the nonsense out here, where you're not really censored. Um, and also join me on my Rumble account and check out all those videos there. Lots of good stuff, and there's a lot of them. So when you go scroll down, that's one page. You have to click next to the next page, and there's several pages full of videos, and go check them out. Good information, insight, different topics, and everything. But anyways, this is the Conscious Chicano, and remember, don't be woke, but be conscious. Have a good day. See you later.